Hello, everyone. I'm glad to have you join me tonight on Speak Your Mind with Larry Cox. Going to give everybody a few minutes to join in. Hope that the sound is working. If you guys can let me know, had to go out today and get a new mic for this remote broadcast. Um, when the audience builds up here in a little bit, I'll tell everybody where we're coming remote from. Speak Your Mind has going on a little tour. We're really out there somewhere else, so I'll let you guys know that. So Mary Boysworth says it sounds good. So yeah, so I did a little test earlier today because I wasn't certain if the little headphone and mic thing that I was going to have was going to be working okay, and then the little mic malfunction wouldn't work at all. So what did I do? So I took an Uber to the Walmart and purchased me a mic to go with the computer here, so I could set the little streaming thing up here and go remote. So uh, every year in January, there's a trade show that I attend. I attend the World of Concrete in Las Vegas. So this week, what I'm doing with the Speak Your Mind show is we're coming live from the Strip in Las Vegas. So first time we've come live from the Strip in Las Vegas. So that's what we're that's what we're doing tonight, coming to you live from Las Vegas, Nevada. So, and it's glad to have you guys join me tonight on this version of Speak Your Mind with Larry Cox. So, you know, uh, glad to have you guys here. Glad that everyone is joining me. We're letting the audience build a little bit so that we can get things rocking and rolling. And so, a couple of things we're going to talk about tonight. We're going to talk about some school board stuff, right? So, nothing more and better, I think, than discussing some school board stuff. Um, so that's what we're going to do. So, first thing, I want to thank everyone who came out to the Board of Education meeting this past week and attended. And I want to thank you for showing your support as we debated and discussed 581. And many of you came out and gave your opinion. George Kelichek, you came out and spoke about 581. Dan Burks, you came out and spoke about 581. Corliss, you came out and spoke about 581. Mary, I think you might have two. And my good friend Justin Kinney, of course, gave his opinion about 581 because he was sitting there right across the thing from me. He's the other bookend, and he gave his view about what was going on, and it was very interesting, right? So it was nice, and everybody has their own right to their opinion on that issue, and my opinion is that with Rockdale County not having a 20 mil cap, we have a 30 mil cap. That we can maneuver that millage rate a little bit. We can actually cut the budget somewhat, and that we can make this happen because it's not the dire straits that I believe a lot of these BOEs are making it look out to be. One of the things, Senator Hostetler is introducing legislation that if BOEs opt out, then that's not the final thing. Then it's going to go back as a ballot initiative for the voters to again say whether they want to opt out or not. And then that's what it should be. It should be the voters should have the final word on this. Because when the opt-out version option was put in this legislation, it was put in this legislation so that smaller counties with like these 5, 10, 15,000 people population, where they have very small land homeowner base, that they would have to opt out because they have very little ability to raise funds. So that was the original thought of the legislature when they gave this opt-out option. Not that these wealthy, influent, counties like DeKalb and Gwinnett, and these metro counties, we 500,000 and 1 million people that they would be doing this opt-out, and it's ridiculous. Because let me ask you guys, and you can comment in the chat about this, right? How many of you have the ability to give yourself a 30 or 40% increase in pay, right? None of you. Uh, People that are on Social Security, they get an increase at the rate of inflation. And a lot of times their Medicare premium goes up more than what their increase goes up. So they actually have a net loss at the end of the day on their benefits. So, when you look at this and you look at government entities, and they are able to raise your taxes and give themselves, anywhere from 20, 30, 40% increases a year, it's ridiculous. And it can't continue. The legislature knew that this could not continue. Now, are we going to have some challenges as a BOE in the future to make sure we balance that budget and make sure we raise enough money? Maybe so. But it's what we have to do. And I have spoken to members of the legislature who had said this. It is not a sustainable model to believe that property taxes alone are going to be able to burden financing education moving forward. And that's a reality. And they realize they're going to have to adjust the QB, and they realize they're going to have to maybe put more state general revenue funds toward education, because property owners and homeowners are taxed to the limit. There is a point when you're taking as much money as you can from people. And we've reached that point, ladies and gentlemen. We have reached that point to where we are taking as much money as we can from homeowners. And there's time to say it's time to stop. And that's a reality of what we're facing. And someone brought to my attention something about this past week's debate and the people who spoke about it, that anyone who spoke about staying in 581, they spoke about numbers, they spoke about options and how we can do it. The people who spoke about opting out spoke about emotional issues, that they didn't give you very little facts. And as far as Dr. Oates' presentation, I don't agree with it. I mean, it's just fact. I mean, I don't agree with his doom and gloom scenario, and that's the reality of my thought process. I thought it was a doom and gloom scenario that I think is not a reality. I think that's what we looked at, right? And I think that as we move forward and we make decisions in this county as far as who represents us and who needs to be elected and who needs to hold seats, then voters need to look at who's representing you and who's not representing you, because it's your vote that puts people in office. So do you want people to continue representing you that don't actually represent you? If you do, then keep voting the way you're voting and put people in there that don't think about you whatsoever, and their actions and words say they don't. So just putting it out there. You guys think about your vote moving forward. Think about who you put in office, and that's really what you need to do. You need to think about the people that you place in office. Do they really represent you or not? And and I made the point the other day that we were going to take criticism. Any of us that felt we should not opt out, we were going to be told that we weren't representing the children, and I totally disagree. We are representing the children. We're representing the children the 24 hours a day, not just the 7 hours a day that they're in the school system, because the individuals who own homes and pay taxes are individuals who have to provide a roof for a child to put over their head. They have to provide clothes to put on their back, and they have to provide food to put in their stomachs. And if we tax people at a rate to where they're not able to provide housing, clothing, and food for students, are students going to worry about an education, or are they going to worry about where they're going to sleep that night and where their next meal's coming from? And that's the reality of when you look at, are you representing the students? Are you looking out after their best interest? You have to look out about what their best interest is 24 hours a day, not just the 7 hours that they spend at the Rockdale County Public School System a day. And that's my take on it, that I am looking out after the best interest of the children, but I'm looking out after the whole child, the whole being of the child, and not just the 7 hours that they spend in the school system, but the other 17 hours that they spend outside of the school system. And I think that's what my thought process is. And I think a lot of what we go through, as I've observed, just being a new board member and not speaking on behalf of the board here, just so you guys know, speaking on just as myself as an observer of what happens when people start going to these trainings and such. They're taught things that I think conflict with what the intent of the law is. You're taught to defer to the superintendent on budget and tax purposes, defer to the superintendent on everything. And because, you're told they're the experts. Well, I think they're educational experts, but I think we also have about 1,000 more experts, and they're called teachers. And I think we need to get more input from the teachers as to what needs to happen in the classroom. I've been hearing from teachers out there, and they say, we need less testing and more instructional time. We need for the testing to be cut back, and we need for students to be spending more hours getting instruction versus more hours doing testing. So that's one thing I think we need to look at as a school system, and as education in general is, let's put these kids more time back in the classroom, getting instructed rather than taking tests. And I think that will be a big help because teachers believe that'll help. And I tend to side with those individuals who spend the majority of their time with these children and they know what these kids need. And that's what I personally think also that's what needs to happen. So interestingly enough, I have felt that some of the organizations that do some of the teaching and are supposed to represent school boards and school board members, it was just my opinion after going through some of the that they don't focus enough on what board members can do. Yeah, I mean, and that's so. So that's what I'm thinking of, right? So guys, we need to look at, what is the role of a school board member? What are school board members supposed to do? What's the superintendent supposed to do, and what their main function is? So, there's an interesting piece of legislation introduced by Senator Dozal, and it's Senate Bill 4. And one of there's a couple of big things that it does. And I'm going to read a couple of sections, the way it changes some wording. So when you go into the Georgia Code 20, Section 1, and you go down, if you would go into line 18 or 17, the fundamental role of a local school board, Board of Education, shall be to establish policy for the local system with the focus on student achievement. The fundamental role of a local school superintendent shall be to implement the policy established by the local board. Sort of sounds simple, right? But then they added this language. I'm going to read this added language the way it is now. So I want you to hear it as it is now, and then how it would be if Senate Bill 4 passes. So, the fundamental role of the local superintendent shall be to implement the policy established by the local board. It shall not be the role of the local Board of Education or individual members of such board to micromanage the superintendent in executing his or her duties, but it shall be the duty of the local board to hold the superintendent accountable in the performance of his or her duties. So now you all heard that with that micromanaging stuff. Now let me read it if Senate Bill 4 passes, how it reads, and it totally changes this, right? It says, the fundamental role of a local board of education shall be to establish policy for the local school system with the focus on student achievement. The fundamental role of a local school superintendent shall be to implement the policy established by the local board. It shall be the duty of the local board to hold the local superintendent accountable in the performance of his duties. So when you take out all that micromanagement mumbo jumbo and make it seem that the board can't interact or can't have a word, point blank says, language is cleared up. It says the purpose of the board is to set the policy. The purpose of the superintendent is to implement the policy that's established by the board, and then the board has the ability to provide oversight to assure the superintendent is carrying out those duties. That's a much clearer version of that legislation, and right now that legislation has 23 senators that have signed on as co-sponsors to that legislation, and that is a lot of people signing on to a piece of legislation to co-sponsor. Now, we've got organizations such as the GSBA that provide the training for board members, and there are certain things that they tell you not to interfere with them on the day-to-day basis, not to do that. They bring up the micromanaging thing all the time during the training, and then they tell you that you can't. To defer to the superintendent on the budget, to defer to the superintendent on the tax thing. So let me read to you something here real quick. So they put a provision in this, and it says, so let me read this to you. See, the State Board of Education, okay, hold on a second. Hold on. I got to blow it up because I'm doing it on my phone here. Got to go back down here and find where I want to read this at. Just give me a second, guys. Just don't get angry at me. I mean, let me flip back over to there. Okay, 128. Hold on one second. So I go here to one. Okay. The training program for the members of the local boards of education required by the code section shall not include any of the following statements, recommendations, or suggestions. 1, the local boards of education are encouraged, expected, or required to act unanimously. You are trained now that if you don't act unanimously, come together, and if you disagree, that you can lose your accreditation. You're trained, you're taught that. Don't disagree, because if you disagree and you're not unanimous, you run the risk of losing your accreditation. That's things that you're told. So if this legislation passes, these organizations that teach this, such as the GSBA, will not be able to train board members. You can't. They will not be able to say that, and they will not be able to teach board members such things. Also, it says the local board of education are not authorized to request information from local school system administrators. You are now told you can't request information. This says they are not allowed to tell you that you can't request information, because you can request information. The local board of education shall defer to the local superintendent on budget and tax matters. So you're told you have to defer. You are not to defer, because one of your main domains and purpose is to establish the taxes and to approve and establish a budget. So you can only do that if you're involved in it. So this is very interesting. And then there are several other things. I'm not going to read everything, but let me tell you, if these organizations continue to teach things that minimize the effectiveness of elected representatives, they will be banned from the time that they are found negligent in this. They will be banned for 3 years from being able to teach classes to Board of Education members. So if they violate these policies, they are banned for 3 years from teaching these classes to board members. And that is significant. That is very significant. So, guys, this is a big deal. This legislation is a very big deal. And, just so you guys know, I actually have a meeting with Senator Dozal in 2 weeks, and he wants to talk to me about some things, and I'm going to go meet with Senator Dozal and talk with him about Senate Bill 4, because I think it's very important that Senate Bill 4 passes. I'll tell you, I've spoke to a lot of board members, and not out, and got to remember, outside of Rockdale County too, right? So what they feel is that the GSBA and other organizations try to make board members feel that they're lesser elected officials, that they don't have any authority, they can't do anything. That's one of the things you'll hear people run when they run for the Board of Education. Well, I really can't do anything. Well, I'm going to ask you, why do you want to sit on that board? I never told anybody I felt I couldn't do anything. I have always told people I think I can make a difference, and I intend to make a difference. And I believe that we've made made some difference this past week just by being allowed to be heard, bringing debate, bringing discussion of the 581 issues. So I think it is a very important issue that faced our community, and it faced the voters, and voters overwhelmingly supported it. I think the superintendent tried to allude to people didn't understand what they were voting for and this and that, and if they could do it over, they would. The majority of people wouldn't do anything different if they could do it over, because the majority of people want tax relief. And let me tell you, the tax relief just doesn't come to homeowners, right? People who rent want tax relief too. And they're not going to get it through 581, but there are other ways they can get tax relief, right? So we've got to understand. People are just getting tortured. And you're welcome for you do have to listen to the constituents. You have to listen to the voters, and you do have to represent the children of this district. Like I said, my vote and my support for 581 is supporting children, because I believe that the children do come first when you put the community first, and I think that's what we've got to look at. We've got to put kids first. Just solid with his vote on 581. And I'll tell you, I think, I can tell you, I don't know of anyone who said that they favored 581 the other night. There's not a vote to sway there. All four of those were solid votes. And that's what I look at it as, right? So we it was a good debate. It was a good discussion. It was good dialogue. And what I would ask everybody on the board to do is ask what they've asked other people in the past. Once we decide on an issue, then we rally around each other, support each other, and move on. So just saying. I think I heard that a lot last year. Is like, that's the way the board decided. Let's rally around, support it, and move on. Superintendents even said, if that's the board decides a way, I'm gonna support the board and might not agree with it, but move on. So it's time to move on. Okay, that horse has ran its race. Now it's time to get into the budget process, figure out what revenues we're going to have, moving point, and establish a budget. And hopefully we can establish a budget that has some cuts in it. And here in the near few weeks, I'm going to be asking again for budget discussions during board comment, and I'm going to suggest during that time period a certain amount of cuts. And hopefully we're listened to, and hopefully, we don't have to reject a budget because people won't listen to us and bring us a budget we asked for. And And, you know, and I don't want to hear this nonsense that it's micromanagement or it's out of my lane, because it's not. It's not out of the board's lane to ask that. It's out of other people's lane by refusing to listen to the board and allowing the board to do their jobs. That's what I see. And it's what I'm going to advocate for. And again, I'm not speaking on behalf of a majority of the Rockdale County Board of Education when I am on this show and I'm making these comments. I'm speaking for Larry Cox, and not in my official capacity as a board member. I'm speaking to you as the host of Speak Your Mind with Larry Cox, who has First Amendment rights to still speak about any darn thing he wants to on this show. How about them apples? Good apples. Love them apples. But that's what we're looking at. So, you know, guys, I'm just really, really excited about what the future looks like. I'm excited about being able to hear from each and every one of you, so you can tell us, you know, what you think and what's going on. But I just want you to know, you know, Senate Bill 4 definitely something that we need to support out there. And you know, and you got Senate Bill 1 also, the bill that will support females in Georgia in athletics. You know, that you do not have males participating against females, and I think that's a good piece of legislation. You know, in my opinion, as you know, as a citizen and a taxpayer, and a father of 4 daughters, and I have many granddaughters. I do not want my daughter. I did not want my granddaughters participating in sports against males. Do not want that. So I support SB 1 also, because I think it's solid legislation. We need to get out of the fantasy realm of things, get in the realm of reality, and there we go. So guys, you guys got anything else you want me to talk about? Because if not, I've came off. You know, we did the show live from the Vegas Strip tonight. Had to go to Walmart, get an Uber to go get a mic, because it meant that much to come on the show tonight to discuss 581 and discuss Senate Bill 4, because Senate Bill 4, in my opinion, is a game changer. It takes away all that nonsense that people talk about, and I'm just excited about. I'm excited that the legislature has heard from school board members who have felt that they are being belittled and minimized by a lobbyist organization. I mean, some board people are going to get hot at me for saying, about the Georgia School Board Association being a lobbyist organization. Well, it is a lobbyist organization, and you've got the people who are in the leadership of the GSBA who do all the training are former school board superintendents. So, in whose right mind do you think that former superintendents are going to actually advocate for school board members? No, they're going to advocate for school board superintendents, because that's what they were. So come on, guys, let's get real. Let's make this happen. Senate Bill 4. Call your House, call your senators, call your state senators, tell them to support SB 4. And when it moves over to the House, whatever version that is, then we'll start the effort, to support that legislation when it moves to the House side, because this is very important legislation that will help your board members not have as much nonsense to deal with, because it is a lot of nonsense to deal with when you're constantly told you're a lesser elected employee, that you have no authority, and you're just an elected employee, that elected official who is to rubber stamp a vote. That's what you're a rubber stamp. You're told that you're a rubber stamp. Well, I'm not a rubber stamp. I'm nobody's rubber stamp. I'm your representative. I represent the kid. I look after the best interests of the kids of Rockdale County in that school system. And I look after your tax dollars. That's what you elected me to do. You didn't elect me to be anybody's rubber stamp, and I won't be a rubber stamp. Well, guys, that's what I got. Joy, thanks for the well wishes out here in Vegas. My trade show starts here tomorrow, so I'm excited about that. I love the trade show. Love to go and learning about the new things that's going on. I like talking to people that are in different markets than mine and share ideas. So it's good to do this once a year, and I look forward to my week, but also I look forward to getting back home. So good to be here, but it'll also be great to get back in Rockdale County. Yes, Ms. Russo. I am my good friend Trey Bailey, Newton County BOE member. Thanks for joining the show, Trey, and thanks for speaking out in this Speak Your Mind, because that's what we do. We speak our mind so your voice can be heard. That's what we do. George, yeah, the school system is funded by the citizens, right? So yes, Ms. Russo, my next town hall will be February the 11th at 6 p.m. at the Movement Church, and I'll start putting some things up there about that, so that you guys will have a good idea about that. But that will be February the 11th at 6 p.m. at the Movement Church, and we'll put some stuff up on Facebook here 1st of February about that to make sure everybody knows what we're doing. And, like I said, remember, it's a listening town hall. So you're going to do the majority of the talking when you come to them town halls, and I'm going to listen to you. And then I'm going to take your concerns back to the rest of the board and the superintendent. So that's what I intend to do. But your voices need to be heard, and you need to have a place to do that. Because one of the things that people talk to me about, I didn't know some people signed up the other night, and I didn't know this. So apparently I got to ask about it Monday. I'm going to make a phone call tomorrow. So apparently they only allow so much time to give public comment. And apparently we ran out of time for public comment last Thursday. And there were people who signed up that didn't get to speak. And I wasn't aware of that, but a couple of people did tell me that they filled out comment cards and they weren't allowed to speak. And they said, well, no, they said the time ran. I did not hear that. But yeah, so I will have a discussion about that tomorrow. And I think that definitely needs to be amended, because, we don't need to cut that time off. We need to give the time necessary for you as citizens the opportunity to speak. And if that's a very important thing to do. So we'll look. I'll check into that tomorrow. I'll send an email and ask, if there is a time limit on what we're public comment lives. So guys, thanks for joining me tonight on another edition of Speak Your Mind with Larry Cox. And I will see you next Sunday, and I'll be in Rockdale County next Sunday, and I'll be live from the house. And remember, speak your mind and let your voice be heard.